Hi friends, welcome to my class. Previous we studied the zeros of a quadratic polynomial. Now continue our class. If x value minus 1 and x equals 4, if we are substituting in a p of x equation, we will get the answer is 0. Such numbers are we called zeros of the quadratic polynomial. Observe here p of minus 1 equals 0 and p of 4 equals 0. Observe this. Here minus 1 and 4 are called zeros of a quadratic polynomial x square minus 3x minus 4 equation. So and one more thing we studied geometrical meaning of zeros of a quadratic polynomial. Geometrically how they are points we will observe now. See here the parabola in upward direction. In this parabola line crossed the x-axis at two points, that is one here and another one is here. So these 2 points are called the zeros of that polynomial, zeros of a quadratic polynomial. We have x square minus 3x minus 4. This means we have to consider in this drawing on the x-axis points only. Now I will take a case 1. Here the graph cuts x-axis at the two distinct points a and a dash. Observe here. So this parabola in a downward direction. Here the x-axis crossed this parabola line in 2 points a and a dash. Here also you have to observe this parabola in upward direction, but this on the x-axis these line crossed in 2 points, that first one and second one, a and a dash here. Now observe these two drawings now. So the x coordinates of a and a dash are the two zeros of the polynomial, quadratic polynomial. This means we have to consider on the x-axis the line will touch the points, that points we called as zeros of a polynomial. We can observe second case. Here the graph cuts the x-axis at exactly one point. You can see here in a point. I will show you. In the x-axis, this is x-axis, the parabola line touched on only one point here. X-axis, see this is only one point that I will mark with the a now. And here you observe this parabola will cross or touched only one point on x-axis. See this x-axis line, it will touch here only one point here, touch this only one point. That's why the x coordinates of a is the only 0, that means 1 0 for the quadratic polynomial. In this case ax square bx plus c in this case. Now we will observe in case 3. Here the graph is either completely above the x-axis. See here, this is above the x-axis, completely below the x-axis. This means below the x-axis the parabola will came under the x-axis. So it does not cut the x-axis at any point. Observe this. The below parabola line will not touch the x-axis point. That's why observe this. Here the parabola line will not touch it on the x-axis, so the quadratic polynomial ax square plus bx plus c has no zeros in this case. So now how they are zeros of polynomial we'll see in some examples. Look the graph, find the number of zeros of p of x. Observe this first drawing. See here the line will cross it on x-axis at one point only. Here we have to consider only x-axis, don't consider y-axis. X-axis only we have to take. Here that point is only one point crossed on the x-axis. That's why the number of zeros is 1 only. That answer is 1. And observe the second figure. Here the parabola line will cross around x-axis at 2 points. The first one is here and second one is here. So that's why the number of zeros is 2. Here the number of zeros is 2. And we will see in some other examples. This is a third figure. Observe this third figure. The line will cross around 1, 2 and 3 points on the x-axis. That's why the number of zeros in this figure is 3. Zeros is 3. Observe this, in this parabola line cross around only 1 point touched on the x-axis. That's why the number of zeros is 1 here. 1. Don't consider y-axis, consider only x-axis. Here you observe this x-axis point, we have only 1 point here. That's why the number of zeros is 1. Number of zeros is 1. Here observe, here this line will cross around 4 points. First one is here, second one here, third one here, fourth one is here. That's why this figure, the number of zeros is 4. Number of zeros is 4. Like this we have to choose the number of zeros of the polynomial. I hope all of you understood this zeros of a polynomial, quadratic polynomial topic. In next topic we will study in the next class. Thank you for watching, friends.